Right, I've just created this query which selects the year of the data transaction, the month of the data transaction, and the amount from table transaction. It uses a with statement to capsulate it as a my table, and then we select star from my table. Now you can see we've got a squiggly underline, so we have a problem. Let's see what the problem is. No column was specified for column 1 of my table. In other words, we have to provide an alias. So I'll call this the year, and this as the month. Okay, and we execute. Now this might seem a very, very trivial with statement, and it is. But it's through here that I want to introduce something which is not, in any sense, the word trivial, namely pivot and unpivot. Now, in case you don't know what a pivot table is, I'll copy this into Excel. I'll have to add headings. So here we have it in Excel. And I go to Insert Pivot Table. OK that. And I want the year going down, the month going across, and the amounts as the value. So that's what a pivot table does. It allows you to add columns from the original data and create a sort of report. So this is an amount for year 2014 for month 1, and it's a total amount. So we get to do that here. And we use new words that you won't have come across in SQL Server, and it is a bit of a mouthful, I think. So we've got our select statement, and then following the select statement, so following the where and the having and group by and that sort of thing, we have the word pivot, and we open bracket, and the first thing we're going to put is the values, the thing in the middle. So in this case, it is going to be the amount. So we'll put amount. But this isn't good enough. We need to say what we want doing with the amount. Well, in our pivot table in Excel, we summed it, so we're going to sum it this time. Following this, we say for. So now we say what column we want running across. So out of our original data, what column gets put across? What column gets pivoted from going down to going right? And that is the month. So the month. Next we say in. And in brackets, we then have to specify the pivoted columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's right, you actually have to specify them. And if you're using numbers like this, you also have to put them in hard brackets. The reason for that is that technically a column, all columns have to be in hard brackets, unless they comply with certain regulations, and those regulations include starting with a letter, which none of those do. So you'll see if I was to drag in a column out, it would be in hard brackets if you dragged it out from the Object Explorer. The brackets are optional unless you do things like not start a column heading with a letter. If there are spaces, they will also need to be in hard brackets. Symbols, apart from underscores, they need to be in hard brackets. So now we close the in and then close the pivot, so 2 close brackets. And then we have to have an as and name this table. So we have to use an alias when we close the brackets. which I may have mentioned on a few occasions before. So I'm going to call this my pivot. Now we can, if we want to do an order by, and I'm going to order by the year. Now just wait a moment. I've not actually said anything about the year inside the pivot. I've said the sum of the amount, and I've said what the column is, and I've said what the individual columns are, but I've not actually said the thing that remains. So what the computer believes is that whatever remains are the rows going down. So it's vitally important, therefore, in this select statement, you only have the things that you need for the pivot table. You only have the rows, you only have the columns, the things you're pivoting across, and you only have the values, the things you're summing or counting or minning or maxing or whatever. Don't have extraneous information. Right, so pivot open bracket, aggregate for column in names of columns. So we've got 2,486 rows here. If we go to Excel and go to the bottom, we've got a grand total of 3 rows. So we should only expect 3 rows, right? So let's execute. And there we are, 3 rows. So what we have are the 3 years going down, and we have the months going across, and we have the values in the middle. Now you notice that in row 4 we've got select star. So what would we replace the star by if we wanted to? Well, the great thing is I can highlight that and see we have to put the final columns we're getting, the pivoted columns. So we'd have to get the year, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So I'll just copy and paste the rest from here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So notice there isn't a column called the month, there isn't a column called amount. So quite often, this is one of the uses where star is actually not too bad. If I was just to put star from my table, it's not the worst thing in the world. The problem is we've got all of these nulls where we don't have any rows. We'll see how we can tackle them next lecture.